Life has a way of teaching us lessons in the most unexpected and painful ways. It breaks down the proud, humbles the arrogant, and forces us to face the very truths we try to run from. But some people only learn when it's too late, when the damage is already done. This is the tragic yet powerful story of Cynthia, a young woman who had everything she needed but never appreciated it. She was born into poverty, raised by a mother who sacrificed everything for her, but Cynthia wanted more. She wanted the life she saw in movies, the kind of wealth and luxury she admired from afar, but there was one thing standing in her way: her past. Her mother, Rita, was a simple woman, a roadside food seller who worked tirelessly from morning till night just to ensure her daughter had a future. She lived for Cynthia, breathed for her, and endured the mockery of others because she believed one day her daughter would rise above it all and make her proud. But Cynthia wasn't proud of her mother, she was ashamed. When she got into university, she saw a world she had only dreamed of: students who lived in comfort, who wore designer clothes, who drove cars instead of trekking under the scorching sun. She envied them, but more than anything else, she wanted to be them, and to do that, she had to erase her past. Cynthia changed her story. She told her new friends that her father was a wealthy businessman and that her mother had died years ago. She cut off contact with Rita, her mother, ignoring her calls, pushing her away, the woman who had given up everything for her. And then, the unthinkable happened. One day, Rita decided to visit her daughter at the university, carrying bags of food and love in her heart. But what did Cynthia do when she saw her mother? Did she run to her and embrace her? Did she proudly introduce her to her friends? No. She denied her. With cold, cruel words, she rejected the very woman who had given her life, and at that moment, Rita's world shattered. But if only Cynthia knew that life never lets us get away with such cruelty. Just when she thought she had escaped her past, fate struck back with a vengeance. The luxurious life she built began to crumble before her eyes. A betrayal she never saw coming, a mistake she could never erase, and a painful consequence that would change her life forever. With nowhere to turn, no one to help her, Cynthia found herself at the doorstep of the same mother she once disowned. But would Rita welcome her back with open arms? Would Cynthia finally understand the true meaning of love and sacrifice? This is a story of pride, betrayal, pain, and redemption, a story that will leave you speechless. Stay with me till the end, because Cynthia's journey is one you will never forget. Before we'll begin this gripping true story, we invite you to subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to like and share this video, and comment where you are watching from. The market was alive with noise and movement, the air thick with the smell of roasted corn, fried plantains, and freshly ground spices. Traders shouted over one another, each trying to sell their goods before the day ended. The sun was high in the sky, casting sharp rays on the busy streets, and Rita wiped her forehead with the back of her hand. Her wrapper clung to her skin, damp with sweat, but she barely noticed. She adjusted the heavy basket on her hip, shifting the weight so it wouldn't strain her too much. It was another long day, just like the ones before it, and the ones that would come after. She had been up since morning, boiling pap and frying bean cakes to sell by the roadside. It wasn't much, but it was honest work. Work that had put food on the table and sent her daughter, Cynthia, to school. She sighed and looked at the money tucked safely inside her blouse, a small collection of crumpled notes. It wasn't enough, never enough, but it was better than having nothing. As the sun began to set, Rita gathered her things and started to walk home. Her feet ached from standing all day, but she quickened her pace, eager to see Cynthia's face. Cynthia, her daughter, was her pride, her reason for pushing forward despite the struggles. Cynthia, on the other hand, had grown tired of their life. She had always been different. Even as a child, she would ask why they lived in a cramped one-room apartment, why her clothes were always second-hand clothes, and why her mother had to work so hard when other mothers stayed at home or rode in fine cars. Rita always answered with a patient smile, "Hard work and patience will bring better days, my daughter." But Cynthia never believed that. As she grew older, her resentment deepened. She hated the smell of frying oil that clung to her mother's clothes, the embarrassment of bringing friends home only for them to see the tiny room they shared. And most of all, she hated the way people looked at her when they realized she was the daughter of the woman who sold bean cakes at the roadside. When Cynthia gained admission to the university, Rita, her mother, was overjoyed. She saw it as the beginning of something better. She borrowed money from Madame BC, the kind-hearted woman who often gave her credit, and bought Cynthia provisions, new clothes, and even paid for her hostel fees. "Make me proud, my child," she said, hugging Cynthia, her daughter, tightly before she left. Cynthia had smiled then, but the moment she stepped into campus, she felt something shift inside her. Everything was different. The students here wore designer clothes, carried expensive phones, and spoke about vacations abroad as if it was normal. She listened to their conversations and quickly realized that she was nothing like them. She made a decision that day. She would become someone new. When Cynthia was asked about her family, she told them her father was a wealthy businessman who lived abroad and that her mother had passed away years ago. It was easier that way, no shame, no awkward questions. At first, it felt strange to lie, but with time, it became her second nature. Cynthia changed her mannerisms, the way she spoke, the way she walked. She avoided calls from her mother, always making excuses. Cynthia stopped visiting home, telling her mother she was too busy with school, but deep down, she was lying. She knew the truth. She was ashamed of her background. Rita, her mum, noticed the change almost immediately. At first, she told herself it was just school keeping Cynthia busy, but as months passed, the excuses piled up. One evening, unable to bear the silence anymore, Rita decided to visit Cynthia, her daughter, in school. She woke up early, cooked her daughter's favorite meal, and packed it carefully in a food flask. She even borrowed some money for transport, determined to surprise her daughter. As she boarded the bus to the university, she imagined Cynthia's face lighting up with joy. She imagined the warm embrace, the laughter, the stories they would share. But reality had a different plan. When Rita arrived at the school, she felt a rush of pride. Her daughter was studying in a prestigious university. She was on her way to becoming someone great. As she stepped through the school gates, she spotted Cynthia from a distance, walking with a group of well-dressed students. She looked beautiful, radiant even, wearing a sleek dress and carrying a designer bag. Rita's heart swelled. "Cynthia," she called out, waving excitedly. Cynthia froze. Her friends turned to her, waiting for an introduction. Rita hurried forward, her smile wide. "My daughter, I have missed you," she said, reaching out. Cynthia's heart pounded. Her mother's voice rang in her ears, but all she could think about was the judgment in her friend's eyes. "Who is that woman?" one of them asked. Rita laughed lightly. "My dear, it's me, your mother." Cynthia's breath caught in her throat. She wanted to run, to disappear. Instead, she did something she would regret for the rest of her life. "I don't know her," she said quickly. Rita's smile faltered. "Cynthia, it's me. I said I don't know you." Cynthia snapped. Her friends laughed awkwardly, and she turned away, walking off with them as if nothing had happened. Rita stood frozen, the food flask feeling heavier in her hands, the bustling school around her blurred, the voices drowned out by the ringing in her ears. Her daughter, her Cynthia, had denied her in public. Tears stung her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. With slow, heavy steps, she turned around and walked away. Cynthia didn't look back. For the next few weeks, guilt ate at her, but she shoved it aside, convincing herself it was necessary. She was building a better life. She had to let go of the past. Then she met Daniel. He was everything she wanted: wealthy, charming, generous. He showered her with gifts, took her to fancy restaurants, and promised her a life of luxury. With him, she felt like she belonged. She convinced herself that she had made the right choice. Until the night everything changed. It was supposed to be a simple dinner date. They had eaten, laughed, and he had invited her to his apartment. She went willingly, trusting him. But when she refused to sleep with him, his expression darkened. The charming, sweet-talking Daniel vanished. He grabbed her waist, his grip tightening. "You think I'm spending all this money for nothing?" he sneered. Fear seized her. She struggled, begged, but he didn't listen. That night, he took from her something she could never get back. When it was over, he tossed some money on the bed and told her to leave. A month later, she discovered she was pregnant. Panic consumed her. She called Daniel, hoping he would take responsibility. He laughed. "You think I'm the only man you've been with? Get rid of it, don't call me again." Cynthia was shattered. The friends who once adored her disappeared. Cynthia became an outcast overnight. With nowhere else to go, she did the one thing she never thought she would do. Cynthia went home. It was late when she arrived. She hesitated before knocking, her hands trembling. The door opened, and there stood Rita, her mother. For a moment, neither of them spoke, then Cynthia fell to her knees, sobbing. "Mama, I am so sorry." Rita's eyes filled with tears, but she didn't hesitate. She pulled her daughter into her arms. "My child, you are home," she whispered. Cynthia clung to her, her body shaking with regret and pain. "I was blind, I was foolish. I mocked you, I abandoned you." "Hush," Rita said, stroking her hair. "A mother's love does not fade irrespective of the circumstances." Cynthia wept in her mother's arms, realizing for the first time that true wealth wasn't money or status. It was love. It was family. And she had almost lost it all. The small room was just as Cynthia had left it years ago, but now it felt different. The wooden walls, the thin mattress on the floor, the scent of freshly made pap, it all brought back memories Cynthia had buried under layers of shame and denial. She sat on the edge of the bed, her hands resting on her swollen belly, the reality of her situation pressed down on her like a heavy weight. She had nowhere else to go, no one else to turn to. The same mother she had abandoned was now the only person willing to take her in. Rita moved around the room, lighting a small kerosene lamp. The dim glow cast soft shadows on the walls, making the space feel warmer and safer. Rita placed a bowl of food in front of Cynthia, her daughter. It was yam porridge, the same meal she used to love as a child. "Eat, my daughter," Rita said gently. Cynthia hesitated, her pride still clashing with her hunger, but the moment she took the first bite, the floodgates opened. She ate in silence, tears slipping down her cheeks. She didn't know if she was crying because of the food, the comfort, or the overwhelming shame that twisted in her chest. Rita watched her daughter with quiet understanding. She had seen Cynthia through every stage of life, from the little girl who ran around barefoot in the compound to the teenager who had begun to resent their poverty. And now, she was seeing her as a woman who had been broken by the very world she had run towards. "You should rest," Rita said when Cynthia finished eating. "Tomorrow is another day." Cynthia nodded, too exhausted to argue. She lay down on the thin mattress, her mother covering her with an old wrapper. For the first time in a long time, she felt a sense of peace. But sleep did not come easily. The past haunted her, the nights spent laughing with friends who no longer cared about her, the expensive gifts Daniel had given her, the empty promises, and then, the night it all changed. She could still hear his voice, cold and cruel, telling her she was nothing. She turned on her side, her eyes stinging with fresh tears. How had she ended up here? Morning came too soon, the sound of traders calling out their goods, the laughter of children playing outside, the aroma of fried plantains drifting in through the window. It was all so familiar yet distant, like a life she had abandoned and was now forced to face it again. Rita, her mother, had already woken up. Cynthia could hear her outside, speaking to one of the neighbors, Mama Toby, about the rising price of food. "Ah, Mama Toby, see as everything don cost for this market. Small tomatoes we suppose be 200 Nigerian nairas before, dem day sell 800 Nigerian nairas now. Abeg, how person wan take survive for this country?" Mama Toby replied, "Mama Cynthia, na wetting I just day think oh, even rice we day by 10,000 Nigerian nairas last year, e don reach 50,000 Nigerian nairas. Na so person go take chop. If you no be millionaire now, hunger fit finish you for this country." Cynthia sat up slowly, her hand instinctively going to her belly. The baby, she had tried not to think about it too much, but there was no need escaping it now. She was going to be a mother. The thought terrified her. What kind of life would she give this child? She had spent so much time trying to escape poverty, and now, she had nothing, not even the dignity she once clung to. She stood up, stepping outside into the warm morning sun. Rita, her mother, glanced at her but said nothing. She continued washing clothes in a small basin. For a long moment, Cynthia just watched her mother, the woman she had mocked, the woman she had pushed away, was still here, working as hard as ever. Cynthia took a deep breath. "Mama, I want to help you." Rita looked up, studying her daughter's face. Then, she simply nodded. "Come and sit down." Cynthia knelt beside her mother, dipping her hands into the soapy water. It was strange, feeling the rough texture of the clothes, scrubbing the dirt away. Her hands had grown soft from years of avoiding this kind of work, but she didn't complain. She needed this. As they worked, Rita finally spoke. "What happened, Cynthia?" The question was gentle, but it carried the weight of everything unsaid. Cynthia swallowed hard. "I thought I was building a better life," she whispered. "I thought if I changed who I was, I would finally be happy." Rita didn't interrupt, she just listened. "I met a man. He made me feel special, like I belonged." Cynthia's voice shook. "But it was all a lie. He hurt me. He left me with nothing." Rita closed her eyes for a moment, as if absorbing the pain in her daughter's words, then she reached out and squeezed Cynthia's hand. "My child," she said softly, "the world is full of people who wear masks, but true happiness is not found in lies, it is found in love, in family, in knowing who you are." Cynthia felt tears sting her eyes again. She had spent so much time running from her roots, only to realize that her mother had been right all along. Days passed, turning into weeks. Cynthia slowly adjusted to her new life. It wasn't easy. She still struggled with the stares of old neighbors who whispered about her sudden return. She still woke up in the middle of the night, haunted by her past, but she was learning. She helped her mother at the roadside stall, selling bean cakes and pap. She learned to smile again, to find comfort in simple things, like the laughter of children running past, or the way the sun set beautifully over their small compound. One evening, as she sat outside, rubbing her swollen belly, she realized something. For the first time in a long time, she felt at peace. She didn't need expensive clothes, she was no longer living a fake life, and she was not in need of fake friends. She had her mother, she had her child. She had a second chance. But fate was not done testing her. One afternoon, as she was arranging plates at the food stall, she looked up and felt her entire body go cold. Daniel. He stood across the street, leaning against a car, watching her. For a moment, she thought she was imagining it, but then he smirked, his eyes traveling down to her belly. Cynthia's breath caught, fear gripped her. Why was he here? She turned away quickly, her heart pounding. Rita, sensing her daughter's sudden tension, followed her gaze. "Who is that man?" she asked. Cynthia's throat felt dry. "The father of my child." Rita's eyes darkened. She wiped her hands on her wrapper and stood up. Daniel was already approaching. Well, he drawled, stopping in front of them. "Cynthia, you look different." Cynthia clenched her fists, forcing herself to stay calm. "What do you want?" Daniel chuckled. "Is that how you greet an old friend? I came to see how you're doing. You don't care about me." Her voice was steady, but inside, she was shaking. Daniel's eyes flickered to Rita, who was watching him like a hawk. "Ah, so this is your mother? The one you were so ashamed of?" He laughed. "Funny how life works, isn't it?" Rita stepped forward. "Whatever business you had with my daughter is over. Leave." Daniel smirked. "Relax, Mama. I didn't come to fight, I just wanted to see if Cynthia needed help." His gaze turned cold. "And maybe I should take my child." Cynthia's stomach twisted. "No." Daniel's smile widened. "We will see about that." With that, Daniel turned and walked away, leaving a storm of fear in his wake. Cynthia grabbed her mother's hand. "Mama, he can't take my baby, he can't." Rita squeezed her hand firmly. "We won't let him." But Cynthia knew Daniel, she knew he was not done with her yet. The days after Daniel's visit were filled with an unshakable sense of dread. Cynthia tried to act normal, helping her mother at the stall, forcing smiles when customers came by, but deep inside, she was restless. Daniel's words haunted her. "Maybe I should take my child." What did he mean? Was he just trying to scare her? Or was he serious? She didn't trust him. She knew what he was capable of. He had no love for her, no concern for the baby she carried, he had only ever cared about himself. Every time she stepped out of the house, she felt as if eyes were watching her. She started glancing over her shoulder, listening for footsteps behind her. The fear clung to her like a shadow. Rita, her mother, noticed. One evening, as they sat outside after a long day at the stall, she turned to Cynthia and said, "You are afraid." Cynthia didn't answer at first, she just stared at the sky, at the way the sun was slowly dipping below the horizon, casting an orange glow over everything. Finally, she whispered, "What if he comes back?" Rita placed a firm hand over hers. "Let him come. He will not take your child." "But how can we stop him?" Cynthia's voice trembled. "He has money, he has connections. What do I have?" Rita squeezed her hand. "You have me. And you have something stronger than his money." Cynthia swallowed hard. Truth. It was such a simple word, but in her life, it had been the hardest thing to hold on to. That night, as she lay on the mattress, sleep did not come easily. She remembered the night she met Daniel. He had been charming, full of sweet words and promises. He had made her feel important and special. But now, looking back, she saw the truth. She had been nothing more than a game to him, and when she had served her purpose, he had discarded her like trash. Now, he wanted to return, not because he cared, but because he wanted to take something from her, her baby. She wouldn't let him. The next morning, Cynthia made up her mind. She couldn't live in fear. She needed to take control of her life. "Mama," she said, as they prepared the food for the day, "I need to find work." Rita looked up, surprised. "Work?" "Yes," Cynthia said firmly. "I can't just sit here, doing nothing. I need to stand on my own feet." Rita studied her daughter's face for a moment, then nodded. "You are right. But what kind of work can you do in your condition?" Cynthia glanced down at her belly. She was nearly 7 months pregnant now, and her body was heavier, slower. "I don't know yet," she admitted, "but I will find something to do." That day, after helping her mother set up the stall, she went around the neighborhood, asking for any job she could do. Most people shook their heads. "No work for a pregnant woman. I wish I could help, but business is slow." Cynthia refused to give up. She walked until her feet ached. And then, just when she was about to turn back, she saw a small tailor's shop at the corner of the street. An elderly woman sat outside, sewing a piece of fabric. Cynthia hesitated, then walked up to her. "Good afternoon, Mama." The woman looked up, her eyes sharp but kind. "Good afternoon, my dear. What do you want?" "I'm looking for work," Cynthia said. "Anything at all." The woman studied her for a moment, then gestured to the stool beside her. "Sit." Cynthia obeyed. "Do you know how to sew?" the woman asked. Cynthia shook her head. The woman smiled. "Then it is time you learn." And just like that, Cynthia found herself with a new purpose. The days passed quickly. Every morning, she helped her mother at the stall, and in the afternoons, she went to the tailor's shop, learning how to sew. For the first time in a long time, she felt hope. But just as she began to rebuild her life, the past came knocking again. One evening, as Cynthia and her mother were packing up the stall, a black car pulled up beside them. The window rolled down. "Daniel." Cynthia's heart stopped. He didn't step out. He just looked at her with a smug expression. "You've been avoiding me," he said. Cynthia forced herself to stay calm. "I have nothing to say to you." Daniel smirked. "Oh, but I have something to say to you." He leaned slightly forward. "I spoke to a lawyer. Legally, I have rights over this child." Rita stepped in front of Cynthia. "You abandoned her. You do not deserve to call yourself a father." Daniel chuckled. "Abandoned? Cynthia, did I ever tell you to leave? Did I ever ask you to disappear? You made that decision on your own." Cynthia's hands curled into fists. "You threw me away, Daniel. You laughed at me when I told you I was pregnant." Daniel shrugged. "That was then. Things change." He tilted his head. "And let's be honest, Cynthia. Can you really give this child a good life? Look at where you live, look at what you do. Is this the future you want for your baby?" Cynthia's chest tightened. That was her greatest fear. Daniel saw the hesitation in her eyes and smiled. "Think about it," he said. Then, without another word, he drove away. Cynthia stood frozen, the weight of his words pressing down on her. Rita touched her shoulder. "Do not listen to him." But Cynthia wasn't sure anymore. That night, she lay awake, staring at the ceiling. What if Daniel was right? What if she was being selfish, keeping this child when she had nothing to offer? What if she was just repeating the cycle of struggle? Tears slipped down her cheeks. She didn't want to be weak, but the fear was consuming her. Then, she felt a warm hand on hers. She turned her head. Rita, her mother, was awake, watching her with soft, loving eyes. "You are thinking too much," her mother said. Cynthia swallowed hard. "Mama, why won't I think?" Rita sat up slowly. "Do you know the day I found out I was pregnant with you? I was terrified." Cynthia blinked. "You?" Rita nodded. "I was young alone, your father had left. People told me to give you away, to start over. They said I would regret keeping you." Cynthia held her breath. "But I did not listen," Rita said firmly. "And I have never regretted it, not for one once." Cynthia felt something inside her shift. Her mother had been in the same position years back, she had faced the same fears, the same doubts. And yet, she had chosen to love her dearly despite the challenges she faced. Cynthia took a shaky breath. "I don't want to be bothered anymore." Rita smiled. "Then don't be." Cynthia wiped her tears. She would not let fear control her. She had made mistakes, but she had also learned her lessons. We have come to the end of this story. Join me next time for another captivating story. Trust me, you won't want to miss it. Before you go, please help me grow this community. Click the like and share button. Subscribe to my YouTube channel for more interesting African stories. I honestly got you covered. Thanks for your time.